Hello, it's chilled Mama Kathy here. Hope you are all keeping warm. It's flipping freezing outside. I've got my older son's hoodie on because I'm so cold. I've had to put the heating back on. I have just a few minutes and I wanted to pop on to invite you to join me for my webinar about home birth. And I thought I would talk to you about why I think that almost everybody should consider consider home birth as one of their options. Now, home birth isn't for everybody. I get that, and there's some people who absolutely need to be in hospital. There's some people who need to have a cesarean. If you need to have a cesarean, there are some absolute reasons where, the baby's not going to be born any other way, and it might be your choice as well. I'm not trying to persuade people against what their decision is. I'm asking you to do is, if you are hoping to have a vaginal birth, that you consider a home birth. There are several reasons for that. First of all, it's one of your options. So in order to make an informed choice, it's a really good idea to find out about all your different options. And if you can't attend my webinar, then which the consumer organisation, they have a fantastic section on birth choice, and I recommend that you go there. They've got a little like questionnaire that you can do that can help you to sort out which birth option that you would like to go for, and there's lots of information on there on home birth as well. It can be really odd if you don't know anybody else who's had a home birth. I get that. Over a decade of doing home birth group, virtually everybody who came, there was two reasons that people were planning home births. Well, three probably, actually. One, but the biggest one, was that they knew somebody had had a home birth. The second reason was that the midwife had suggested home birth to them. And the third reason was they'd had not such a good time with their previous birth, and they wanted to not be in hospital. I think if you haven't had a midwife suggested, if you don't know somebody, then it makes it really hard to really know what home birth is like, because there's an awful lot of myths around. So look into it so that you can make an informed decision, and obviously coming to my webinar will be a good start. The other thing I think everybody should think about home birth as an option is there are really good reasons to plan a home birth, even if you actually don't intend to give birth at home. And there are lots of different reasons, and I've written a blog post about it, and I'll put that on there. To my mind, all spontaneous births are home births, but some have planned transfers, because everybody, if you're having a spontaneous birth that starts spontaneously at home, you're going to spend hours at home. So a large part of your labour will be at home, and often we don't plan for it. But if you plan a home birth, you do plan for it, and you have the midwife come to you and help you decide when to go in. I also think that everybody ought to consider a home birth, because although you might feel, I will feel safer in hospital, but that's your logical brain. That's this part of the brain, the cerebral cortex, that is the more recent addition to our brain in evolutionary terms, and that's where our intelligence is. That's where our reasoning and thinking skills. But giving birth isn't controlled there. Giving birth is controlled into the bit right down in the middle there, the middle of our brain, And that's to do with, that's where fight and flight is, and it's where all the sensory input comes in there too. So you might logically think, I feel safer in hospital, but that old mammalian animal part of your brain might be triggered by the smell, by the sounds, by the bright lights, and might actually go, I don't feel safe. And that would trigger your fight or flight response, which will slow down labour and may even stop it. So that's another reason to consider a home birth. Another reason to consider a home birth is actually statistics show that it's at least as safe and has much lower interventions. If you are a low-risk woman having your second or subsequent baby, your chance of having a straightforward birth, if a planned labour ward, planned hospital birth, is 70%. So that's really quite high. 70% of you will have a straightforward birth with no interventions at all. If you plan a home birth, same women, you have a 96% chance of all going well and having no intervention. The chance of needing a caesarean with a planned home birth, second or subsequent baby, low risk, is just 1%. And although it's not high with a hospital, it's 5%. And that is actually there's a big difference. So you are not putting yourself at risk, you're not putting your baby at risk. We are very lucky in the UK that midwives are so well linked into hospitals that they don't wait to transfer. If they think there's a problem, they transfer. And this is something I'm going to be looking at in the webinar. I'm going to be looking at the reasons why midwives transfer, and I think they're going to surprise you. And I'm going to go through everything that midwives have with them and how they deal with emergencies. I'm also going to deal with situations, what would happen if, what might you need help, and also things that might mean that you don't end up at home, either staying at home or even starting off at home, because realistically it's might happen, and that's honest, isn't it? The other reason I think everybody ought to consider a home birth is you never know, you might love it. And I've known a couple of women, and one of my roles is a doula, which is a birth companion, and I was an antenatal teacher, and I've had a doula client and an antenatal client. Both give birth so quickly and so easily, they ended up at home, and without the midwife there. And one of them was prepared for it because that's where they planned to give birth, and one of them didn't feel confident about it, but she ended up giving birth at home anyway and loved it. So, and best bit about home birth, you get a home birth group, we always end up talking about how wonderful it is to be in home after giving birth and having your own bed, your own bathroom, nice and clean, access to the fridge, your own visiting hours, your own eating hours, nobody else's baby. So anyway, I hope I've given you some ideas about why I think it's a good idea for everyone to consider a home birth, and maybe you would like to tune into my webinar on Wednesday evening. You do need to sign up for it. I'm asking for a small fee to help me cover my time and to cover my expense of putting it on. And so please let me know. I'll put the link below. Thanks very much. Bye.